Okay, welcome to everybody. Happy Friday. You're listening to the Retail Ready podcast, and I'm your host, Justin Osburn, coming to you from sunny Sarasota, Florida. Actually, getting ready to jump on a plane and head to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, for a great on site for a 20 group. But today, I'm very excited this morning. We've got an awesome guest with us, Ted Henkle with True Blue Autos, which is out of Greensburg, Indiana. So you don't want to miss this. Get your cup of coffee handy. Get ready on maybe you're on your drive to work or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Get ready. We've got some fire coming for you in just a minute.
Listen up, ladies and gentlemen.
Happy Friday. And now, you're listening to the Friday Morning Retail Ready podcast.
Are y'all ready for this?
Awesome.
So I want to welcome to the show one of my good friends and a dealer out of Greensburg, Indiana, Ted Henkle with True Blue Autos. So Ted, thank you for being on the show this morning. And also just want to throw it to you really quickly and just give all of our listeners an idea of how you got in the car business and the history of True Blue Autos, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Justin. Happy Friday. So as far as the car business, I actually had no experience in it whatsoever before my wife and I took the plunge here. When I graduated college in 2011, I started at a YMCA actually here in Greensburg. I graduated with a rec degree. Was there for 2.5 years. Then saw the ceiling and the small earning potential, I guess, from being a non-for-profit. At that point, my wife forwarded me a message about getting into sales at an RV dealership. And, when I was younger, my mom and dad, my family and I, we always went camping and traveled around to softball games and stuff like that. So I took a leap of faith and did something I never thought I'd be in sales in RVs, and spent 2.5 years there, going from sales to financing to parts. Then about 2015, my father-in-law approached me and my wife, and he was going to start a used car dealership and asked me to manage it and my wife and I to run it. So that was my introduction into the used car sales business there. He actually, so our family business is 65 years this year. So my wife's grandparents, my father-in-law's dad and mom, they started it in 1954. Shortly after he got back from World War II, he got into fixing cars like he did in the Pacific. He was a mechanic over there. And then he went to work at a couple bigger dealerships when he got back, and figured out that he could do this and make a little money and be his own boss. So he was the first entrepreneur in the family, that instance. And then he started the same year my father-in-law, who owns it now, was born in 1954. He worked for his dad and actually one time broke away because he wanted to make the thing a little bit bigger, and his dad was a little comfortable with where he was at. And so up until about early 1990, Joe ended up merging with Stan, his dad, and he started in a small little shop in Batesville, and then grew it to now he's got 2 locations, one in Greensburg, where we're at right now. It's about a 21,000 square foot facility with our dealership and body shop, and then another 15,000 square foot shop in Batesville, where his original building that he built there.
So you guys, Greensburg is going to be southeast Indiana, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So we started off, in Batesville, which is about 20 minutes southeast of Greensburg. We're in a pretty centralized area. It's really nice. We've got Indianapolis, 45 minutes northwest, 45 minutes southeast is Cincinnati. Dayton, Ohio is about an hour and 45 minutes, and then Louisville is about an hour and 45 minutes. So, we're central to some fairly good-sized cities, and it's been pretty good so far.
What about the RV business? I know you weren't in the RV business per se for an extended period of time, but are there a lot of similarities? I know you mentioned F&I, and I mean, is that model, from what I've heard, and I've been exposed to it quite a bit, the RV business, there's some good profit margins there as well. Did you enjoy that? Was it similar? Was it different?
I did enjoy it. Yeah, the gentleman that I work for, who is a small family, it's called Lee's Country RV. Roger Lee is his name. He started it some years ago now, and he was one of my first mentors in sales. What a great guy, honest guy. He was one that kind of translated a lot of the honesty, I guess you could say, and the transparency from what I learned there to how Alex and I can operate it here on the used car side of things. There are some pretty good profit margins, and it's one of those. It's starting to become a bigger industry, but it's one of those that it was an industry that if you knew what was going on and you got into it right, there was some money to be made. And now I think with the way that a lot of families are kind of coming back around, there's a lot more people that want to take small little trips driving here to there instead of these big extravagant, vacations and everything. So we actually see a lot of people, to coincide with the car business. We have a lot of people that are buying big 3/4 ton trucks and things like that to pull their campers, to go on vacations and things like that. But it was good. Yeah, the profit margins were a little bit bigger than what we have in the used car business today. There's no doubt about that. But I think that the RV industry is it's a few years behind the auto industry in terms of it took a little bit longer for internet and Facebook and things like that to digital advertising to catch up, especially for small local guys. Whereas now in the in the used car industry, even small independent used car dealers, digital advertising and digital marketing is it's the forefront of everybody's mind.
What about, the car business kind of starts with inventory. What does your inventory look like? Have you guys really taken a look at what's been selling? What's your market asking for? What are you carrying right now, and how did you get there?
Well, that's always been a question of ours. This is our 4th full year in business. Actually, September 26th will be the 4-year anniversary of our first sale that we made. Came from very humble and small beginnings. We started off with 9 cars, bought 9 cars. Our first auction we ever went to. It took us about 7 months to get rid of all 9 of those cars. But it was good. Everybody has expensive and good and bad growing pains. But we always asked the question of, who are we? That's kind of always been our question, our mantra. Who is True Blue Autos? Because there's so many different identities you can have in the used car business. Are you a straight subprime? Are you a lifted truck car? Are you a jack of all trades? And we've kind of dabbled in about everything. We started to, buy some more expensive cars when we didn't really know what we were doing, because my father-in-law has expensive taste. And then we got into buying, lower end, less expensive cars, trying to prime or cash sale those cars, which was a little tougher because we didn't have any subprime lenders set up. And then we kind of were a jack of all trades for about 1.5 years. So I think we finally came about figuring out who we are. We more so around our local market, every vehicle or every family has a car and a big SUV in their driveway darn near. So we do really well with big trucks. I think more so, 3/4 ton, ton gas and diesel trucks we do good with. Big SUVs. Our local market, like I said, they demand a lot of that stuff, but then we do sell some specialty units here and there. If we find something at the auction, or we'll buy vehicles from local folks because they usually take pretty good care of their vehicles. We'll have a mix of trucks and SUVs, and then we'll have a few cars and small SUVs here and there. But I think that's kind of been our identity. Jeeps are another thing that we do really well with. So we've kind of had a different identity through each 4 years, but we're starting to figure out who we are and what we can hold and what we can sell.
Yeah, that's a good. Let me ask you this: where did True Blues Autos come from, and what does that mean?
So when we were, again, we go back to this being a family business. So my father and mother-in-law own the dealership and the corporation. My sister-in-law, the oldest one, Abby, is the president. Vice president is Nicole. She is my second oldest sister-in-law. My wife and I run the dealership, and then my brother-in-law, Sam, works on the floor. He's worked about every position. He's been here. He's 29, and he'll be here 12 years already. He's been everything from a head painter to sweeping the floors. But, to go back to your question, we were sitting around at a family dinner for a couple of weeks trying to figure out, we're in about, let's say June 2015. We were sitting around, what are we going to call this new business? Is it going to be Inna King Auto Sales? Is it going to be Joe's Sale? There's a lot of used car places are the owner's names and then auto sales or used cars or something like that. We wanted to, with the digital marketing and everything online and trying to hit a chord with a potential customer before they even read anything about us, before they see our cars, our lot, our website, whatever. True Blue, when you look it up in the dictionary, it means that you're, tried and true, that you're dedicated, that you are trustworthy. So when we went out there and we tried to, each family member kind of came with an idea. I think there's about 12 of us or 10 of us, and so it took some hashing out to figure it out, but I brought up the thought of, what do you think about True Blue Autos? And everybody was like, huh. And blue is the Inna King Auto body colors, so it kind of, our local 2 high schools here, big high schools are blue, so it kind of coincided with a lot of things. And then, True Blue is something that, I think is different. Nobody really hears it, and we've had that question asked of us a lot, and I think once people hear it and kind of explanation, like, that actually makes some sense to me. So
it does. That's good stuff. You mentioned a lot of family members in the business, and not to get too much into your business, but I'm sure a lot of listeners are dealing with family. I know I've went and done a lot of on-site consultings, and the major problem was family, but it can also be extremely rewarding. But what are some of the experiences you've had working so closely with so many family members involved in the operation?
Well, you're exactly right, Justin. It's very rewarding and very challenging at times. And I would say, coming from my original RV experience was a small family-owned and operated business. Now to this, both of them had their challenges, but there's a lot of perks with it too. It's one of those things where I've had to learn where to draw the line. When you're out to eat with your family, you're at different gatherings and stuff, you got to figure how to push business down and just be able to enjoy family, even when you're, not necessarily in good graces with each other at that point. But it's been really good. My father and mother-in-law, they've been in family businesses now, since he was born. And he's been a sole owner for over 30 years now. So it's one of those, or almost 30 years. So it's something that I've kind of taken some lessons from them. It took a while for me to be able to figure that process out. But we do a lot. You've seen us at our 20 groups, and when we first met and everything, we're very close. It's very nice when you can share in the highs with your family, and they understand. Also sharing the lows, they understand the process and the grind and everything that goes with it. One of the challenging parts is we just went on a 1.5-week vacation as a family, and that pretty well shut down True Blue Autos, as well as took, our whole corporate and several people off of the body shop side. So, when we do things like that, it's challenging because it can disrupt business at times, but again, it has its pluses. There are certain things that you can only have, being able to get away to a kid's football game or coaching a football game or, getting to a recital or anything like that, that sometimes in a bigger place you don't necessarily get those perks.
What about you brought up 20 groups, so since you brought that up, I'll hit one shameless plug today on the podcast. But I know you've been in a 20 group now for quite some time, and I know you guys are growing. But what has a 20 group done for your business or for you? I mean, what are some of the positives of a 20 group?
Well, to be honest with you, my father-in-law's been in 20 groups for as long as he can, for as long as I can remember. He said for at least 25 years in the body shop and collision repair side of things. When we first joined, it was one of those things where, we were kind of, to be truthful, we were kind of a little struck about some of the costs because there are a lot of costs that can be associated with it. And he just said, give it some time. You'll go to these meetings and the cost will be insignificant for the amount of information and things that you'll get from talking to other dealers and talking to, to the leader and stuff like that. And I would have to wholeheartedly agree with that. Some of the things we've implemented, some of the ideas that we have gotten have easily covered the costs, have easily made us money. Simple word tracks that, you've worked with and said to Alex and I when we went to your class there even. So it was things like that we didn't really know a lot about, never being in the retail, used car industry. And then ideas that you exchange with other dealers has been head and shoulders above some of the information that you can just get just by looking online. I think when you're in person, sharing personal data, sharing personal experiences, you gain friendships and you gain mentors, and it's been really good for us.
There in Indiana, talk to us a little bit about doing business in the great state of Indiana. I mean, is there dock fee limits? Have you been in touch with the Indiana IADA? Is it a friendly state to operate a car business in?
I would tell you, Indiana's pretty darn friendly. There's a lot of, like I said, we've talked to some people in some 20 groups where there's some really challenging states out there that really try to kind of constrict the used car dealer, just from the standpoint of not trusting them, I think, to a degree, to run their businesses correctly. But Indiana's very good. Early on in the process, we had a state, what do you call it, jester or a state gal come out, and she, after about 8 months, did some looking at our paperwork, and she said, I don't plan on ever coming back again. Nice. So we had some things like that, and she said, if everybody operated like this, my job would be a lot easier. So, I think if you're just, if you mind your P's and Q's, you cross your T's, dot your I's, the state of Indiana, the Bureau of Motor Vehicles are very easy to get along with, in my eyes. Now, I'm sure there's challenges out there, but, dock fees, we actually had a reduction in what we could now use. So the Indiana cap right now is $200, and that is for a document prep fee. There's been new legislation as to what you can use to actually call a document prep fee and things like that. Other fees can be associated after the sale, so a title fee, different things like that. But a official document prep fee, as we call it, is limited to $200 here in the state of Indiana.
What about a mistake? What's one of the bigger mistakes that you've made that you could share with our listeners, and maybe they could avoid that pitfall? Any big mistakes that stick out that you would have done differently if had given it another chance?
I think one of the big mistakes that we made was, when we first started out, is not doing as much research to find out locally what our local market was needing, or maybe a niche that we could fill here in our local market. We dove right in and kind of bought what we liked instead of doing a little bit more research into, what is the local communities needing. There's Ford dealer, a Dodge, a GMC, things like that. And here in our local market, we can sell some of those, but some of our, we hold some Toyotas and Hondas and different things like that our local market just doesn't get unless they drive a half hour to an hour away. So, do some research before you just jump right in would be probably the big thing that we needed to do. We did a CMD, before we ever sold a car, which was good, but I think we would benefit more now that we actually know a little bit about it. So that was good from that standpoint, but we needed to do a little bit more research as to what we could fill, what void there was here in our local communities, instead of just picking what we like and hoping that we're going to be able to sell them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, we were talking about this last week when I had Brandon Reeves on the podcast, and the idea that we're kind of moving, or what I'm seeing anyway, is more boutiques opening up. And what I mean by that is, I would not be surprised to drive by a used car dealer in America today that had nothing but Lexuses, 100 Lexuses lined up on the front line, and that's all they did. Or, lifted trucks, or, luxury SUVs. On the retail side, we're seeing more of that focus. And I think it's easier to remember if you're a consumer when you're driving to work or driving to drop off your kids or driving to church. It's easier to associate and remember, man, that guy's got a bunch of Lexuses. And if I'm interested in a Lexus, I would probably look that person up, that dealer up. And as opposed to when I kind of talk about this now, I kind of talk about it as like doctors. You have your generalist that you go to because you're not quite sure what it is that you have wrong, or you need a referral to a specialist. And then you go to a specialist after you've gone to the well, the generalist to me was the car dealer 10, 15 years ago selling 50% cars and, 15% SUVs and 10% vans. Today it seems like there's a lot more focus on niche, what I call a boutique. It sounds like you guys are going into that as well. Let me ask you a question. I'm not asking you to give the farm here away, but what's something that True Blue does well? I mean, what's something you can give the listeners that you guys just have really done a good job at?
Well, I think that, and I believe that most dealerships try to do this, and it's something that we really hold our hat on, and we've established an identity, I guess, online as well as in person about it. Is we are truly, I believe, a dealership that would like to treat a customer how we would like to be treated. I think that's kind of a oversimplification of it to a degree, but I think that if you treat a customer and you treat a client how you would like to be treated, or if you could put yourself in their shoes, more often than not, when you're talking to them, showing them, you're trying to land them on a vehicle, or most of our clients actually come in on a specific vehicle, I would say 90% of the time. So we're not trying to calm down, or we're not trying to do things like that. They're coming in specifically, hey, I want A, B, C, or D, or I want A. So we really try to talk to that person like we're showing them. We're not trying to sell them something. We're not trying to sell them a car. We're trying to, let them know that the idea that this is a good car is actually the case. Trying to make sure that they know that everything they read about online on the car, on us, when they do their 16 to 18 hours worth of research, and they see these reviews and things like that, it's not just, we're not just trying to pay people to go online and write a review. These are people that after they leave here are saying, hey, they treated me like how I would want to be treated at a used car dealership. And I think that goes a long way. We've lost some sales because of it. But I think overall, when you look at it from the consumer standpoint and you try to treat them how you treat your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, yourself, if you were in their shoes, it goes a long way. And, that's something that, coming from a small family owned and operated business, 65 years in local communities, that's something that you learn in a small town like this and small business, is that, you want to treat that person, because, one person that you treat badly can be like treating 30 people that you treated the right way. So, that's going to happen. You're not going to please everybody, but if you more than often treat that person, with respect, and that you're honest with them and stuff like that, then I think wholeheartedly that'll come back around and pay tenfold, rather than trying to remember what you said and things like that.
Well, you mentioned online, and I know at our last 20 group meeting, you gave a some idea or some presentation on what you guys are doing on social media. And, I think you talked a lot about Google Analytics, but I see you guys everywhere on Instagram and Facebook. What type of organic material are you guys coming up with? How do you come up with what you're going to post? And, what's that look like?
Sure. So my wife, Alex, she does all of our social media. She does all of our online marketing. So she's the guru here. She's the face behind the veil here at True Blue. She's very good, at what she does. She has. We try to, in our weekly meeting, we have a weekly meeting with our owners and managers and the corporate side of things, and we try to maybe think of little ideas, little things that that would capture people's attention, that would make them want to stay on True Blue's, Instagram, or we haven't really hit that as hard as Facebook, but they would want to like our page. So, we try to not just post a vehicle. We try to have some fun with it. And I think a little bit quirky, a little bit fun. We posted videos of, me doing some funny things before. We've got different ideas of, it's a full-time job to do that kind of stuff. So, we're looking actually at hiring somebody that can come in and alleviate some time so Alex can really concentrate on that, because I believe that, getting onto YouTube and getting onto Facebook and trying to, just like you said about the boutique, trying to be more individualistic on Facebook and YouTube, to where people, one, see us as people and not just car salesmen that are for some reason always hiding something from you, but we're actually people that are here that, have a little quirkiness to them, that are honest, that are, fun to be around, and that you can see as people and not just car salesmen. But she does a really good job with that. We've got a GoPro, again, just a little bit inside. We've got a GoPro that she'll do, virtual test drives in. We do we're trying to really focus her more on doing walk-arounds on vehicles. I think the more you can personalize something, the better that customer is going to feel. And then, I think it's eventually going to come to the point where, if they feel like you're being honest and they're the one that you're speaking with, it's not just a generalized video or anything like that. That really strikes a chord with a lot of people.
Awesome. And Ted, what's your website URL?
TrueBlueAutos.com.
Awesome. Well, listen, I really want to thank you for joining us this morning on the Retail Ready podcast. It's been a great ton of information that come out of it, and I just want to thank you and appreciate your time. I know you're busy, but thank you very much for coming on this morning.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah, we really appreciate it. We've had a really good time. Just to say again, if there's some dealers out there that want to know some information, 20 groups are definitely a way to go, and Justin can help you out. He's done that for us.
Shameless 20 group plug. Well, listen, you've been listening to the Retail Ready podcast. I'm your host, Justin Osburn, with Ted Henkle of True Blue Autos this morning. Join us next week as we travel just a little bit up north to meet with Chris Dietrich, a dealer out of Ohio. We're going to talk about focused on lending. Chris used to be in lending, used to be an underwriter for AmeriCredit. So it's going to be great to have him on the podcast. And then I'll put your links, if it's okay, Ted. I may put your email and your URL in the links below. So if some of our listeners have specific questions for you, they can reach out to you directly. Is that okay?
Yeah, be happy to. Reach out to me anytime.
Awesome. Well, you guys have a great weekend. Sell some cars, and we'll see you next time.
Happy Friday, everybody.